All right. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Sharon.
your patience.
Of course. Welcome everybody to the Downtown Advisory Board May meeting. With the call to order, I'm going to take attendance, starting with myself, I'm present. Kirk Sun here, Alan Pollock here, Charles Weathers, Juan Robertson, not here, Chrissy Birch, not here, Rory McManus here, Brian Bechtel here, and Sarah No
Here.
Okay, let's proceed to the approval of our agenda. Ask for a motion unless there's any discussion.
Motion to approve. Agenda. Okay, first day.
Alan seconds. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Those not, nay, or thumbs down. Motion carries. We have an approved agenda. Moving forward now to the approval of minutes from our April 27th meeting, which are here in our packet and made available online.
Those minutes look great. I move to approve.
Second. Great seconds. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the approval of our minutes from April 27th, say aye. Those not, nay. Motion carries. Now proceeding to agenda item number 4, public comment. Any public comment? No. It's the holiday. Agenda item number 5. We have no action items today. Agenda item number 6, information reports. Michael Miller, principal engineer, is in the house to talk about downtown streetscape update. Take it away, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah. Leaving you. This share screen.
I've been bugging Sheree about this problem.
In a good way.
Absolutely. Well, we always want more.
About streetscape.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah.
All right, so I was asked to kind of give some information, some update on some of the downtown projects. There's a few projects that I was asked. So the first one is the next slide, Linda. Union Street, friendly bikeway. That project is on Union Street, starts at Commercial Street and runs to Summer Street. It's 6 blocks. Just to kind of give you an idea where the project is. That project construction started about 3 weeks ago. So we're in the middle of underground work right now. They're getting new storm drains or catch basins and storm inlets in now. They have been working on some of the ADA ramps in that area. When we're done with this project, we'll have replaced approximately 34 ADA ramps. And then we're going to actually repave the top 2 inches of all 6 blocks from curb to curb through that area and restripe it to allow bike lanes. So kind of in a nutshell, that's what that project is.
Is that completed this summer? Or is
The
it?
plan is to complete this project. The completion date that we have in the contract is in October. One of the other kind of longer items with this one is a new signal does go in at the intersection of Union and Liberty. So that's kind of the one piece that may lag behind a little bit just based on the availability and lead time to get the electrical equipment. Any other questions that you guys have on Union Street? Other than that, we can always, if there's any questions, let me know and we can always fill those in later. Kind of the next one is this streetscape. Currently under construction is what we're calling the 2022 streetscape. That's when it was actually advertised. That is the both sides of Commercial Street between Court and Chemeketa. And that is putting in new sidewalks on the east side of the road. There'll be new trees that go in, all new lighting, so there'll be lighting associated with the project. And it also includes all of the underground infrastructure for both the lighting and the irrigation system. So that depending on what goes in the future, we have the capacity to add that infrastructure in without needing to redig and to add that in. This one is under construction, kind of what is kind of lagging out there again is the electrical is what we're waiting on right now. To kind of finish up the concrete work, there is a few junction boxes that need to be adjusted to their correct location, and then the rest of the concrete work will be completed. And that would finish kind of the surface improvements, and then we're waiting for there is a electrical service cabinet that's still a few weeks out, and then all of the light poles that are associated with the project. The foundations are in. So once the poles get in, they can stand those up on the foundations and run all of the wiring. They tend to like to wait to run the wiring until poles are in so that we don't have wires sticking out of the ground.
So Michael, is it a case that nationwide there's some supply chain issues in regards to electrical? Just
A lot of time, that's what we're running into. What we're finding out is, so like the light poles themselves, the manufacturer that those are coming from is Valmont. They do have a facility that's between us and Portland, but these poles are actually coming out of a facility, I believe, in North Dakota, is where these poles come from. But they typically have, when we get the submittals, the contractor turns in that this is what they want to supply. From the time that the approval gets to the manufacturer to the time that the contractor receives them from the manufacturer is somewhere between 16 and 20 weeks. Is what the order time is to get those manufactured on site. Then there's also the electrical service cabinets. This project or this particular phase only has one electrical service cabinet. Those are ranging anywhere from 4 to 6 months just to get that infrastructure in from the manufacturers. So that's kind of the hard parts that we're working with, but trying to make sure that we're out of the ground and getting the sites cleaned up as much as we can while we're waiting.
So the other question I had, or maybe more of a statement, this is the portion that Gelco?
So this is so if you want to give them phase numbers, this is the third phase. Gelco is doing phase 3. They also did phase 1. Emery and Sons did phase 2. And that was the one that we had just finished probably this last fall. Finish that one.
And I just wanted to be known that Gelco is Salem based. And what we've been trying to do from an economic development side is to see how many times that money will turn over. Because you have, of course, the employees that are getting paid, but they also spend their lunch downtown. They go to those stores. Munchies has really benefited from having all of the construction going on. So anywhere you see a construction project going on, if you just kind of watch Munchies, you can see all these directives that are going in, which I think is absolutely fantastic for small businesses. In addition to that, they then know about downtown and they're more likely to come downtown to, use the restaurants and use the other things. So I'm really, really pleased with some of the turnover that I've seen in all of the construction companies there.
And kind of to add to that one too, just kind of going back, the Union Street Family Friendly is being constructed by Emery and Sons, which is also a local contractor as well. Okay. So the next slide is the 2023 streetscape. We've actually divided these into a and a B, just to kind of help with the design and when we go to put those out for contracts so that we're not disturbing too much area at one time. The A portion is on Commercial Street. It is the east side of the road between Ferry and Court Street. And then the B portion would be the south side of Chemeketa between Front Street and Commercial, and then also the east side of Commercial between Chemeketa and Center. I just did receive from our consultant on the A portion. We did get the 100% plans in last Friday. So I will be doing my final review and getting those ready to go out to bid, and we should be that project out to bid here within the next 4 to 6 weeks. And then usually that's out for a month for bidding. And so we're probably looking at about the next, I would say, 2.5 months, we'll have that contract in place and we'll begin work. And that will be continuing the same streetscape projects that we have done on those previous phases. The 2023B phase, we're purposely lagging behind. So that one, we're close to final design on that one, but we're looking at having that one advertised probably towards the end of the year. So that'll be the beginning of the next year project when construction starts. So the next slide is talking about the Court Street two-way project. So this project just finished striping a week ago. Trying to remember timeline. So the street was actually opened up to two-way traffic probably about 2 weeks prior. There was a material issue that arose with that one, and so we were waiting to get more. The contractor was waiting to get more paint in so that they could finish that up, and that did come in and got that opened up for two-way traffic. If you notice, it used to be 3 lanes running westbound. Now we have 2 lanes running westbound and 1 running eastbound through that section. It involved at both Liberty and High installing a new signal mast arm so that we could add that portion of the traffic signal for that direction of traffic. And modifying the island that was here at Commercial to allow through traffic, and then just because the vehicles are reaching a spot where the only option that they really have legally to turn is right in High Street, we put in a small island there to kind of help force and provide that safety, because the other lane of traffic coming the opposite direction is a left turn only there on the High as well. So I believe that is the last one that I've got.
So can I ask one more
Yes.
question? So is someone tracking how this change in the flow of traffic is helping the movement? Because that was the goal, was to help with the movement in town.
As for the movement, I think traffic engineering is doing some research on that. I did get a request from them wanting both the State Street, which we did about 2 years ago, and Court Street. They were looking at when the completion dates were so they could give that to the police department, because they're doing a study as well to find out, traffic crashes, has that reduced, have it gone up? What has happened since those have been turned to two-way? So that's what I know as of, I don't know any of the results for what they're, any of the information they pulled up so far, but they are looking into that.
I know I had some issues approaching Court Street with my brain. It was just new. Question was surrounding if there had been any incidents.
Not that I have heard of, but except I haven't heard of it.
Now that the Court Street two-way is done, and like you said, State got spruced up a while back, when is the schedule for the sidewalks?
So that's gonna be kind of where we're going with the future streetscape. We are kind of looking at where we're going next. We did have kind of a master plan put together, how we wanted to accomplish those streets. There's been a few items that have recently kind of come to light that we didn't think about, and one of those is the electric lighting system downtown that's supplied by PGE. We found out where the power is coming from, so depending on how we kind of want to progress, if we kind of what we had originally anticipated, that doing those would actually cut off and essentially turn downtown dark with the street lighting if we had gone with our plan.
That's right.
Because we didn't know where they fed them. So we're reevaluating to figure out how we can strategically accomplish the projects and not put half of them down out of light, at least on the street.
Yeah, but had there not been that, was it scheduled slated for like 2025?
So where we were, kind of where we were kind of looking next was to do both court and state are kind of the next. They're the ones we're focusing on next. So how far down we go on those, because that's where their feeds, PGE's feeds come from, is about between High and Liberty. Is where their feeds come to feed downtown. So that's kind of what we're looking at to see how to address that issue.
What's the appetite of scope each phase, because it looks like most of these are like a 2-block chunk regardless of where they're located. Is
So
that
the-
the most you can do, or?
What we've, so we have been going through the budget in the past, has been about $1 million per year. This, for the 2023, it doubled. So that was kind of one of the things that we were looking at to trying to split it, just because the future, we're getting a budget of about $4 million a year. So we're looking at doing about 8 block faces per year. And that's based on kind of our past bids results that we've got in. So pricing is going up and, so we're just kind of playing with, are we gonna be probably somewhere between 6 to 8 block faces is what we're kind of anticipating being able to get with the budget numbers that we have with each year's worth of funds.
So would you do an alternate deduct?
What we're looking at doing is kind of designing 4 blocks and putting that 3 will be kind of guaranteed and having that 4th one as an alternate. So based on when, the contractor will bid on all 4, but have separate numbers for that 4th block, that if numbers come in great, we can do all 4. But if not, we can default to the 3 and then already have the design done for that 4th block and kind of do wrap up projects that kind of add these 4th blocks in at some point.
Forgive me for not remembering streetscape plan from a number of years ago. But I know like the back of your hand. We see the word street so much and sidewalk. Is anything happening in the alley? Is that on the list at all? Should anybody anticipate that?
For the streetscape, all we're kind of looking at is mostly just kind of creating that kind of the bulb out at the alleys is about all we're doing with the streetscape. So, any other questions?
Michael, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem.
Josh, if I could just add on just this little newsletter that was attached in your packet. This is what we are providing as each phase of streetscape is changing, so that our vendors, our businesses will know how to set up their furnishings as they're out. And just let you know also that Sheree and I have been working with AKS about how we can start to soften some of the hardscape that you're seeing. So more greenery, and as Michael said, the trees that will be additional, as well as looking at the trash cans and the seating, because we have to have some seating, but we're trying to look at all of those right now, and AKS was to be at this meeting with Sheree not being here and some other things where we didn't have them to come in and present, but we're hopeful they'll be able to present next month so that you can kind of see how all of this is tying in to making a vibrant downtown.
Yeah, I know we got our next information report discussions of future meeting topics. It's almost a good segue. Because hearing about AKS and taking a look at their new-ish scope addressing trash receptacles, because I know that wasn't wrapped into the scope of streetscape, which I know we were kind of shaking a little discouraged about.
It's trash new.
Yeah, something like that. Alley, it's trash. Anyways, maybe not as good a segue as I thought. But as we end with information report A, on to B, discussion of future meeting topics. So is this where we fly and brainstorm?
Yes, if you recall in October, Sheree sent out, for those who were members in October, sent out a survey saying, what are some of the things you'd like for us to present to you, or what would you like to discuss as part of your meetings? Of course, homelessness was the primary priority that you said in your survey results. And so that's why we had Arches here last month, as well as looking at future months. And why we're doing the tour today is because you want to see some of your project updates and some of the things that you're sitting in here recommending, so you can see it in person. And I will say that we had also asked Charles about woodblocks, and he was more than welcome for us to come in there, but we want to see if he gets a little bit further along, and then we'll have something else to go see. So we want to make sure that you see what commitments you're making as part of DAB. And then the other thing was you wanted a building conditions and vacancy. That was high on the area, along with parking. And as you know, Sheree has already brought up a couple of times some things that are happening with parking. You've made the recommendation to council about it. And then you wanted the guests from Travel Salem, Salem Main Street, and Kathleen from the amphitheater. And of course, we had Kathleen come in January or February of this year. So we just wanted to ask if that was kind of the path you want to continue on, or if there was some other thoughts you have now that we have new members on the advisory board, as well as now that you've had a chance to see some of the folks we brought in, who or what else is something that would be of interest to you. Because we want you to come to these meetings with energy and ready to see the work.
Everything that you did just list out is could be attractive to see during our meeting, but I'm sure there's others.
It was great that you brought in Kathleen, but she was kind of new and just transitioning out of the summer. Would love to get an update from her to see what's going on this summer and kind of what adjustments she's made and, you know, what talent she's able to attract and utilize the facilities. So,
I'd like to add on that, so one of the ways that I learned, not because I have the experience of running a restaurant, well, I got 3 years, okay? I've been 3 years in my mom, but I learn a lot from recapping after there's been a big event or something that has happened in downtown. And I got to see it a little bit with Main Street when we recapped on our first downtown parade. And we had the opportunity to kind of sit down, what worked, what did we see, we liked, what could we do better? Is there a way where maybe it's a quarterly thing where we have Ironman coming up, we have the Oregon Thespians that just came and went. And I know we were talking about trash, and this is such a weird request, but observing the event and not just as the restaurant, but even outside of it, there was tons of kids there. And one of the things that I remember, we were talking about trash, was that all the downtown receptacles, so it was like Disneyland. So in my head, I'm thinking, could this city have known that there was a big event and surplus of people coming in to where maybe they changed the schedule on that, and maybe it's just like an experience appearance thing to when you have people coming in from out of town and things like that. Is there a way where we can recap on big downtown events that happen, and whether you're attending it or participating with it, or whether you're downtown or having dinner while there's something going on? I think it's good to have that perspective because it's the lifestyle that we're creating, and events are part of that. So as a business person and having my business here, and also it's good to get, like, maybe you think something different of the Oregon Thespians being here because you did it, like you experienced it differently than I did from a business perspective. So that's kind of how I learned through experience and kind of recapping on what I think of the events. So great suggestion.
So I have a suggestion. I'm trying to not make it specific to our properties, but regarding streetscape, if there's construction happening downtown and a developer is tasked with doing some streetscape as part of the construction, how is there a plan, or how would adjacent property owners who aren't part of that specific scope get added somehow in a minor streetscape adjustment, i.e. like removing trees or replacing trees or something like that, to kind of blend in with construction going on in half of the block and you're on the next half of the block? I don't know if that's a question or a topic, but it's kind of, okay. Is that something you can speak to here, or?
So I know with our projects, when we go out to do those, we'll typically right? Before we start design, we'll do a project notification letter to everybody within that corridor that would be adjacent to that one, just to let them know, you know, a lot of times we might not know that, hey, they're planning on doing X, Y, Z. So we can try to help incorporate that into the project. Well, that's,
Well, I think without getting specific, when there's a streetscape that happens if new trees are being planted and there's really tall old trees right next to those trees, is there a possibility of process that can be followed for any property owners downtown that run into that situation?
and trees kind of get into this weird area that,
It's out of both of our
yeah,
purview, but I think it would be wonderful for us to look at it in a more holistic approach as to what we can. I think that's what I hear from you, Ryan. And I, without getting more specific as well, I know exactly what you're talking about. Michael and I have had conversations about how we can look at it in a different way. And I think part of it is, some of it is in our control and some of it is not. But I think that's an important point to bring up so that in the future, we may not find ourselves in this position, or if so, how do we change our plans? Because I think our plans were not to even be in that area.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's how that particular one, without being specific, happened. But I think that's a good point, is how do we take, maybe Michael's coming quarterly, we know what's going to happen in the future, we see if there's something else that's going to be developed in that area and how we can tie those in with each other. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, just as future developments pop up, looking at properties adjacent to these properties.
I think you're absolutely right. That's a good point.
I do have a question. We talked about alleys earlier, right? Who does take care of that? Who does revamp them or keep up with them or maintain them or make them look like alleys? I don't know. Is there like does it go through the city or what is the process for that?
The city's responsible for the public right of way where the vehicles travel. Most of the other portions are privately owned. I can tell you that we though walk the alleys on a daily basis, trying to encourage property owners to do their part in helping our alleys are very active. I mean, very active to make it a more inviting opportunity for them. We spent a lot of time, especially where we have businesses along Electric Alley and on both sides, to try and encourage them to do. I know that the alleys being named and some of the other things that are going to happen in the alley, Salem Main Street is in the process of doing those. I know that George Sun Alley is now something that they're going to be, they received a grant and they're going to be adding some wraparounds around the columns, and they kept talking about how much business comes to 440 and how we will have a lot of traffic coming through there. So they're trying to be conscientious of making it vibrant so that people will go through. But the city's responsible for maintaining the actual drive-through, but the business owners, private property owners are responsible for the alley off the alley is what we call it.
So individual efforts on what is, alley cap bar. I think of you with the effort there. So how do we support the people that we're asking, for example, the businesses that have that? How are we supporting them? Should we give them a little more love, love or awareness, or, bring people to those businesses to support them for doing that?
For sure. Some of it is through the wayfinding. If you notice at each of the alleys that are named, you'll see a wayfinder, but the business must pay for the wayfinding sign. And so that's, on them to say, yes, the city will get it made, will, get it installed, but it is on them to say we want to pay for the signage. We have worked with several businesses in the area of, again, Electric Alley, And I know that they're talking with one another. We've convened meetings with them to say, can we work a little bit to improve conditions here, because you have the most active alley of all. We met with Salem Main Street and their board committee of their board a week or two ago in regards to walking all the alleys, because they have a great interest in it. And I think that they're wanting to look at, for instance, the mural that's across from the Whitlock building, and how they can come up with resources to refinish it where it's not as vibrant as it used to be. And so I know that the alleys are a interest of theirs, as well as, you know, the cities. So, and I'm happy to meet with you one-on-one, and if you got some suggestions in regards to how we can, but each individual business is responsible for their alley. As you know, the strategic grant program will pay for fencing in the alleys, and I heard the beautiful one that was put up at Venty's. It was paid for out of your strategic project grant as part of safety and security. And we have been talking with the alley behind Isaacs to help them consolidate some of their trash receptacles. We meet regularly with Republic, and as far as the trash pickup, Republic does have a schedule, and we do have a Monday and big pickup days, and then on Wednesday, I believe they just only go down Liberty and Commercial. You know, just we have those schedules and we have contacts there, and if you're finding that there's a need for an increase in something, I do know that we have those contacts, and I think that's a good suggestion, because even though we're downtown, you see it more often, than we do. So, thank you. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I think, an update on the UGN property on what that's goals are, timing wise, and schedule would be good too.
Are you guys in communication often with Salem Main Street Association? It seems like I've been here, one time that you did the report. I feel like there's a lot of crossover, and you're on the board over there as well.
I'm not on the board, I do attend the meetings.
So you'd be smart to maybe be closer and more on the same page, or
Well, Sheree and I attend their monthly meetings, and Sheree's on their economic development committee, and I put myself on the design committee, which is talking about the alleys. And this morning, I was at the meeting and providing them information, and we do information sharing. I know that they're looking to perhaps put banners up downtown, whereas the parking fund is not able at this time to support that business, but they may be able to. So we've set up a process with Jim Boo, the president, to do some things like that. Of course, we've been very supportive of their holiday parade, including attending meetings to make sure that we keep things moving and can expand it, and they share wonderful news with us. And so we do have that ongoing dialogue with them, as well as participate on a couple of their events. And like when they do First Fridays, we try to make sure everything is looking good, or when we see that influx of individuals, or they're gonna be doing Pride Month, and we wanna make sure that, we do our part to support them and everything. Absolutely.
Is sharing minutes, we say something that we could do?
Sure, because all of our minutes are public, and we're happy to share with them, the minutes that we have, more than happy. Absolutely.
Yeah, growing that relationship, I think, is really important. Because, I haven't attended the meetings myself, but I think we've asked their leadership to, engage us more too, because, we have an advisement capacity up to council, and Main Street has proven that they're certainly capable on their own 2 feet, with their ability to lobby and get the things that they want done. But I know that it's just the start of them invigorating the organization. But it's a special group of downtown centric business users. They need to. I would hope that they would come through with public comment. I know we talk already, but it'd be nice to get them on the agenda as
Well,
much as we can.
if the this group is able to get the parking fund in a better place in future years, then the amount of money that this group has to spend on making downtown even more viable, that connection to them becomes even more important. Because right now, we're saying we don't have any money. But in the future, we have some money, so that being strategic about where we spend it versus where they spend their money.
To add on to what you're saying, Greg, I think. Yes, money does speak volumes, but honestly, just support that you're talking about opens up a lot of doors. So for me to hear, knowing that I've been going to the meeting, not saying that I feel like there could be a disconnect to some extent between the two groups, but I think the same intent is there. And just hearing that you're supportive of that group speaks volumes, and it makes me wanna, like, I wanna go talk. Okay, like, we do wanna work together, we do wanna make it better, but I appreciate that there is open dialogue to it. You're going to the meetings, you know, we do talk about DAB, depending on what the subject is. There is the concerns, but there's also the small victories that we'd like to share. So I'm glad that I can bring it, and I feel like because you're interested in the support, you're doing more than enough, and the support helps.
The alignment's there.
It is, I do believe it is.
Well, I think the only other thing I haven't heard is, the rural agency made an allocation for with purchasing some raw land. Yeah, it'd be nice to get an update on about their ideas for that. That was a big allocation decision. And we're really collaborative, downtown advisory board. I've been here like 4 years, and it's really great that we can feel free to communicate with each other and communicate with Shelley and Shuri, and we have a good rapport. I think it's important we maintain that because it's an exciting moment for downtown with the parking fund being actually looked at now. Finally, I mean there actually will be stability if it gets realized. So at least that's the intent. And assuming people want to pay for parking, which I think they do, because our downtown is awesome. But if there's no further discussion on 6B, is there? Okay, we're gonna move forward to agenda item number 7, which requires us to adjourn, but I need to provide this disclosure because it's our public meeting. So bear with me. As provided for on public notice, some members of the Downtown Advisory Board will be walking to the recently opened Pullman Hotel for a tour. So with that said, this YouTube live streaming will end as the meeting is adjourned, and we will adjourn and